Hello students, today we will learn the chapter of life processes. So what are life processes? All biological processes that take place in the human body and which are essential for the survival of the organism are known as life processes. So all the processes which take place in the human body and which are essential for the survival of the human body are known as life processes. Some of the life processes are nutrition, transportation, metabolism, respiration, reproduction, and excretion. Now let us learn the first life process, that is nutrition. Nutrition is intake of the food and obtaining energy from that food. So when we intake the food and utilize that food for production of energy, this is known as nutrition. Nutrition is of two types, autotrophic and heterotrophic. Autotrophic nutrition is that nutrition in which an organism they can prepare their own food. For example, plants by the process of photosynthesis. Whereas heterotrophic nutrition is that nutrition in which an organism cannot make its own food and is dependent on other organism for food. Now let us study autotrophic nutrition in detail. So we know in autotrophic nutrition, an organism can make its own food. For example, plants. Now plants can make their own food by the process of photosynthesis. The raw materials required for photosynthesis are sunlight and chlorophyll. Now the plants, in the presence of sunlight and with the help of the green colored pigment known as chlorophyll present in their leaves, they reduce atmospheric carbon dioxide in the presence of water to glucose, and the reaction is known as photosynthesis. So this is the reaction of photosynthesis. Plant will utilize carbon dioxide from the environment. In the presence of water, sunlight, chlorophyll, they will form glucose and oxygen is released as a result. So the photosynthesis of plants is oxygenic because oxygen is released as a byproduct. Now let us understand the three main steps which occur during photosynthesis. The first step which occurs during photosynthesis is absorption of sunlight by the chlorophyll. So in the first step, there would be absorption of the sunlight by the chlorophyll, which is a green pigment present in the leaves. The second step of photosynthesis is conversion of this light energy into chemical energy. Now the light energy would be converted into chemical energy and water will break down into hydrogen and oxygen. And the last step in the photosynthesis is reduction of carbon dioxide to carbohydrate. So there are three steps in the process of photosynthesis. First is absorption of light by the chlorophyll. Second is conversion of the light energy into chemical energy along with breakdown of water into hydrogen and oxygen. And last is reduction of carbon dioxide to carbohydrate. Now let us study heterotrophic nutrition. We know in heterotrophic nutrition an organism depends on other organism for the food. Example of heterotrophic nutrition are animal and human beings. Now there are three types of heterotrophic nutrition, that is saprophytic nutrition, parasitic nutrition and holozoic nutrition. Saprotrophic nutrition is that nutrition in which an organism feeds on dead and decaying organic matter. Example, bacteria and fungi. Parasitic mode of nutrition is that nutrition in which an organism feeds on the body of the host. The parasite, it feeds on the body of other organism and that organism on which parasite feeds is known as host. For example, lice in human hairs. Holozoic nutrition. Under holozoic nutrition, an organism engulfs the whole food and digests it inside the alimentary canal. So the organism, he engulfs the whole food and swallows it and digests it inside the alimentary canal. for example amoeba and human beings. Now, Holozoic nutrition is further of three types: herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores. Herbivores are those animals that feed on grass. So, they are grass eating animals. For example, cow and goat. Carnivores are those animals that feed on flesh. For example, which are meat eaters. For example, lion and tiger. Omnivores are those organisms which can behave both as herbivores and carnivores. For example, human being. When human beings feed on vegetable, he is a herbivore, and when he eat meats, he is a carnivore. Now let us understand nutrition in amoeba. The type of nutrition in amoeba is holozoic type of nutrition. When a food particle approaches the amoeba, then amoeba forms the pseudopodia around the food particle. As a result, the food particle move inside the body of amoeba, and this process is known as ingestion. After ingestion of food particle, a food vacuole is formed. Various enzymes move inside the food vacuole, and as a result, the food is digested. When the food is digested, the undigested material is thrown out from the body of the amoeba. The process of ingestion of food particle by the amoeba is known as phagocytosis. So, this is the process of nutrition in amoeba. It will take in the food particle by the process of ingestion. Food vacuole would be formed. Various enzymes would diffuse inside the food vacuole. It will digest the food, and the undigested food will be thrown out of the body of amoeba. And the digestion is holozoic type. Now let us look at process of digestion in human beings. Food first of all enters the mouth. The teeth present in the mouth chew the food, and in the mouth saliva acts on the food. Saliva has enzyme known as salivary amylase, which break down starch to give sugar. So the first enzyme which acts on the food inside the mouth is salivary amylase. Salivary amylase present in the mouth act on starch and converts it into simple sugar. So the first thing to be digested in the food is starch, and digestion of starch take place first in the mouth. After that, food is passed into the stomach. Now stomach has HCl, but the stomach is protected from this hydrochloric acid by the presence of a mucus coat. The stomach also has enzyme known as pepsin. Pepsin, it acts on the proteins and converts it into simpler form known as peptones. Then the food from the stomach, it enters the small intestine. Small intestine is the site of major digestion of food. It receives its secretion from the liver as well as pancreas. From the liver, it receives bile salts. Now, the function of bile is emulsification of fat. That means it converts larger fat molecules into smaller ones. So, bile will convert larger fat molecule into smaller ones. The pancreas will secrete two enzymes, trypsin and lipase, into the small intestine. Trypsin will act on protein and lipase will act on fat. So after the stomach, the food enters the small intestine. In the small intestine, liver will secrete bile, which will help in emulsification of fat, and pancreas, which will release enzyme trypsin and lipase. Trypsin will act on protein and lipase will act on fat. After that, we should also remember that small intestine contain many finger-like projections which are known as villi. These villi increases the surface area for absorption of food. Next, the food enters the large intestine. In large intestine, mainly the absorption of water takes place. We should remember that in the large intestine, it is divided into three parts: cecum, colon and rectum. The colon part of large intestine has a finger-like projection which is known as appendix. This appendix is a vestigial organ. Vestigial organ means this appendix has no role and its function is still unknown. Those organs whose role is not known or which do not have any function in the body are known as vestigial organ. After that, all the undigested food leaves the body through anus. Second life process is respiration. Respiration is oxidation of food to release energy. Respiration is different from breathing in that breathing is just the intake of oxygen and removal of carbon dioxide. There are two types of respiration, aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Whether a respiration which takes place in the presence of oxygen is known as aerobic respiration and the respiration which takes place in absence of oxygen is known as anaerobic respiration. Whether the respiration is aerobic or anaerobic, the first step of the respiration is glycolysis. Glycolysis is the common pathway for aerobic and anaerobic respiration. Means whether there is presence of oxygen or absence of oxygen, whether an organism is aerobic or anaerobic, glycolysis will take place. In glycolysis, glucose is converted to pyruvate. If after the formation of pyruvate, oxygen becomes available, then aerobic respiration occurs and the pyruvate enters Krebs cycle releasing carbon dioxide, water and 38 ATP. But if after the formation of pyruvate, oxygen is not available, then either alcoholic fermentation takes place leading to formation of ethanol or lactic acid fermentation occur leading to formation of lactic acid. In both alcoholic fermentation and lactic acid fermentation, 2 ATPs are formed. So the first step is glucose is converted to pyruvate by the process of glycolysis. This is common for both aerobic and anaerobic organisms. But if after formation of pyruvate oxygen is available, the pyruvate enters Krebs cycle leading to formation of 38 ATP, carbon dioxide and water. But after formation of pyruvate, if oxygen is not available, either alcoholic fermentation or lactic acid fermentation take place leading to formation of ethanol in alcoholic fermentation and lactic acid formation in the lactic acid fermentation. Now let us look at the process of respiration. The process of respiration starts from the nostril. After the nostril, the air passes into the nasal cavity. Nasal cavity has many fine hairs to trap the dust particles. After the nasal cavity, the air passes through the pharynx. Pharynx is the common passage for both food and air. Now, pharynx, it leads into trachea, which is known as windpipe, and through trachea, the air enters the lung through various bronchioles. Lung has many balloon-like structures known as alveoli. These alveoli increases the surface area for absorption of oxygen. Alveoli, the wall of alveoli is very thin so that there is easy diffusion of oxygen in and out of that membrane. Further, the alveoli are very vascular. The wall of alveoli is very vascular, which means it has many blood vessels and it is rich in blood supply for easy exchange of gases. After this, we should also know what is diaphragm. Diaphragm is a flat membrane which separates the thorax from the abdomen. Now, this diaphragm has a major role to play in breathing. Let us look how. Now, let us look at process of inspiration. During inspiration, the diaphragm becomes flat. The normal shape of diaphragm is dome shape, but during inspiration, it becomes flat. As a result, the volume increases. Further, rib cage, they move outward. as a result of which volume further increases. So first diaphragm becomes flat and then ribs move outwards because of both of these the volume increases. Pressure inside the body chest cavity, it decreases because if volume increases, pressure decreases. So outside air, which is from high pressure, it moves inside this low pressure and inspiration occurs.